Hello, I'm Guy Unsworth and I'm the director of Mice and Men. Of Mice and Men is a fantastic story about two people who travel around together working in California in the 1930s. It was written by John Steinbeck through his experiences as a ranch worker in the 1920s. But it's set at a very particular time in history. Shortly after the Great Depression, and whilst the effects of the Great Depression were really hitting America, but also specifically rural America, which had just gone through this period of severe drought, which we now know as the Dust Bowl era, a sort of period of time where the wind picked up this top layer of soil and blew these huge dust storms across Central America and forced people out of their homes. And to sort of up sticks and make their way to somewhere that they could find work and find food, really. And for most of them, that was California. And California to them was a promised land. It was the land where the dreams could be achieved. And it was the land where they were promised work, but the truth was that when they got there, their situation didn't really change. The unemployment was 65%, so the chances of getting work were very slim, and once you were in work, you desperately wanted to stay in it. Where Of Mice and Men is interesting is most of these people working were travelling around on their own, and in the play, George and Lenny travel around together, and lots of people comment on them being traveling as a duo and how unique that is, and I think that lends itself to why the story is so timeless. It's about loyalty and companionship, and they are an unlikely partnership, I think, which is very interesting. So it's a sort of fantastically heartwarming and at times heartbreaking story. I think what's interesting about the play is that Steinbeck, although a lot of people know of Mice and Men as a novel, Steinbeck wrote it as what he described as a play in novel form. He'd been studying in writing for the theatre, but he didn't really like reading plays himself, so he thought he would write a play that could be read like a novel. And within a year of him publishing the novel, the play opened on Broadway, and this is the play. So it's fantastic for us. We don't feel like we're working with an adaptation, a sort of scaled down version of an original book. We are working with the original material. When I was working with David Woodhead in terms of who's our designer, just to create the set and create the sort of visual look for the show, we were very interested by sort of two things, really. One, our two big references were Dorothea Lange's photography, fantastic black and white photographs of the people at the time, a huge wealth of research into the characters involved in the play, but also Edward Hopper, who was painting these fantastic pictures of rural America, and his work, obviously being in colour, has a sort of magical, dreamlike quality, which is very in keeping with how Steinbeck seems to see the play and how he seems to see California. Rich vibrancy to it that we wanted to hold on to. The other thing which I think is really interesting is that although the play is heavily about two people, Steinbeck seems to be painting a much bigger picture. He seems to have identified all the different groups within society, how they relate to one another. And so it's almost as if he is using the characters within Of Mice and Men to paint a broader brushstroke of how America was at the time. So there's this intimacy to that central relationship, but there's also an epic quality to the play, and that's what we wanted to try and hold on to.